They say intuition is a detective's most powerful tool. But what happens when intuition drives investigators to the brink of the impossible? Today, we dive into a gripping case from the United States, a story of relentless determination, unyielding perseverance, and a haunting mystery that refused to reveal its secrets. This is a tale where the unimaginable became reality. Our story begins in 2001, in the quiet city of Grand Junction, Colorado. A town of about 60,000 residents, nestled 200 miles southwest of Denver. Here lived Michael Blagg, a 38-year-old former Navy captain with 10 years of service behind him. Now an engineer, he worked at a local industrial company. Michael appeared to have the ideal life, a comfortable 2-story home, a devoted wife, Jennifer, and a bright 6-year-old daughter, Abby. But on the crisp evening of November 13th, the tranquility of this family was shattered. Michael placed a desperate 911 call, his voice trembling as he reported the unthinkable. Blood stained the bed, belongings were scattered across the floor, and worst of all, his wife and daughter were nowhere to be found. When officers arrived at the scene, their instincts immediately kicked into high gear. With weapons drawn, they meticulously searched the house, fearing the perpetrator might still be inside. But the house was eerily empty, silent except for the growing tension among the investigators. A quick examination of the scene revealed chilling details. Blood pooled on the bed in the main bedroom, hinting at a violent struggle. An empty jewelry box lay discarded on the floor, with a few small items scattered nearby, as if someone had rummaged through it in haste. The puzzle pieces were scattered, but none of them made sense. As night fell, a massive search operation was launched. Reinforcements were called in, helicopters scanned the nearby forests, and the cold waters of the Colorado River were probed with sonar equipment. Hospitals were contacted, and neighbors were questioned. But the results were as chilling as the scene itself, nothing. Not a single lead. Michael, visibly shaken, recounted his day to detectives. He left for work at 6 a.m. as usual. His wife and daughter were still asleep. Throughout the day, he called home multiple times, but no one picked up. Concerned, he left messages on their answering machine. When he returned home at 4 p.m. he discovered the nightmare that would change his life forever. If you found this story compelling and want to stay updated on more true crime cases, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful. At first glance, the police suspected a robbery gone wrong, possibly coupled with an abduction. But as they delved deeper, this theory began to unravel. Friends and neighbors described the Blaggs as a loving, religious family with no known enemies. Jennifer was deeply involved in church activities, and their peaceful life left no room for conflict. Hours turned into an excruciating wait as investigators combed through the evidence. The blood in the bedroom suggested a violent attack, but there were no signs of struggle, no overturned furniture, no defensive wounds visible on the bloodied sheets. The room's quiet chaos left investigators puzzled. What kind of violence leaves no sound, no witnesses, and no trail? As the night deepened, so did the mystery. Who had done this? And why? The case that began as a quiet disappearance would soon grow into one of the most baffling investigations the city of Grand Junction had ever seen. Stay with us as we unravel the secrets behind this chilling tale, a story where every clue led to more questions than answers. What if the life you thought you knew, the marriage everyone envied, and the family you cherished were all hiding secrets too dark to comprehend? As investigators peeled back the layers of this case, the unsettling question loomed: was this a crime of random violence, or was the danger much closer to home? At first glance, the crime scene seemed puzzling yet straightforward. Blood stained the bed in the Blaggs' master bedroom, but curiously, there were no signs of a struggle anywhere else in the house. The garage was clean, yet Jennifer's car parked there revealed faint blood stains. This discovery posed a chilling question: if the bodies had been transported in the car, how was there no trail of blood leading from the bedroom to the garage? Days passed, and suspicions began to shift. The meticulous investigators noticed something unsettling: the crime scene didn't feel organic. It felt staged, almost as if someone had carefully curated the evidence to mislead them. Roughly 48 hours after the disappearance, the narrative of the perfect Blagg family began to show cracks. Whispers of doubt rippled through the investigative team. Was this truly a picture-perfect marriage, or were there fractures hidden beneath the surface? Michael Blagg, desperate to find his wife and daughter, made emotional public appeals alongside his mother-in-law. Their pleas for Jennifer and Abby's safe return resonated with the close-knit community. Church members rallied around Michael, offering prayers and support. Yet, as investigators broadened their search, they also began to dig deeper into Michael's life. The police scoured databases of known offenders and expanded their search radius, but their efforts bore no fruit. The absence of any significant leads was maddening. Meanwhile, Michael was brought in for further questioning. Detectives probed every aspect of his life, asking pointed questions about his marriage and whether there had been any unusual occurrences, strange calls, harassment, or even minor disputes. Michael painted a glowing picture of his wife and their relationship, but when asked about the possibility of infidelity, his answer was cautious. While he didn't believe Jennifer was unfaithful, he couldn't entirely rule it out. This revelation prompted investigators to delve into Jennifer's belongings. Among her things, they uncovered a handwritten note scribbled in the margin of a religious book. The note read, "Spent the morning with Stanley, praying for guidance in my life." The date was chilling. It was written the day before Jennifer and Abby vanished. The name, Stanley, sent shockwaves through the investigation. Who was he? Friends, family, and church members were questioned extensively, but no one seemed to know a man by that name. Was Stanley a figment of Jennifer's imagination, or was he the key to unraveling this mystery? While this enigma deepened, the lab results returned. The blood found at the scene and in Jennifer's car matched Jennifer's DNA. The absence of any foreign fingerprints or DNA was unsettling. What was even more grim, however, was the forensic team's conclusion. Based on the volume of blood lost, Jennifer was almost certainly deceased. Meanwhile, investigators began looking into Michael's own actions. Could he have been involved in an affair? A deep dive into his work computer turned up no incriminating evidence, but it did uncover something unexpected, a draft email addressed to Jennifer, written on the day of her disappearance. Its contents were haunting. Michael wrote, "Jennifer, I'm sorry. We need to talk about everything. I can't keep going like this." The email, unsent and time-stamped just before Michael's 911 call, raised critical questions. What was Michael apologizing for? What was it he couldn't continue doing? Was this an innocent message between a troubled husband and wife, or was it something far more sinister? With every passing hour, the investigators felt they were unraveling not just a crime, but a web of secrets and lies. The stage was set for a revelation that would shake the quiet town of Grand Junction to its core. Who was Stanley? What was Michael hiding? And most importantly, where were Jennifer and Abby? As the answers loomed closer, one truth became clear: in this case, nothing was as it seemed. The deeper the investigators delved into Michael Blagg's life, the more unsettling contradictions they uncovered. At first, Michael's actions seemed like those of a distraught husband and father. But as the evidence mounted, the facade of the grieving family man began to crumble. The email draft had already revealed cracks in the supposedly perfect marriage. The tone of desperation, Michael apologizing for ruining the day and expressing a desire to discuss their problems, hinted at a marriage rife with unspoken tension. But it was his behavior on the day of the disappearance that truly raised eyebrows. When investigators reviewed the recording of Michael's 911 call, they noticed something peculiar. After discovering blood in the master bedroom, Michael didn't immediately check other parts of the house. He didn't go upstairs to Abby's room, nor did he search the property to find any sign of his missing family. It was only after the dispatcher prompted him to consider his daughter that he mentioned her absence. This lack of urgency struck investigators as odd. Why would a father not instinctively search for his young daughter, especially after discovering blood? His seemingly calm demeanor during the call contrasted sharply with the voicemail he had left earlier at 3 p.m., where he expressed significant worry over the lack of response from Jennifer and Abby. The investigators couldn't help but question, if he was so concerned at 3 p.m. why didn't he immediately leave work to check on them, given that his office was only a 6-minute drive from home. A search of the family's home computer brought even more startling revelations. Investigators uncovered a hidden cache of hundreds of explicit images. The nature of these images provided insight into the dominant sexual orientation of their collector, a detail that complicated the narrative Michael had presented. This discovery aligned with another clue, the identity of the mysterious Stanley mentioned in Jennifer's journal. It turned out to be not a person she had met, but rather Charles Stanley, a televangelist known for his fiery sermons on morality. During a Sunday broadcast 2 days before Jennifer and Abby disappeared, Charles Stanley had delivered a scathing condemnation of explicit content, calling it a destructive force in marriages. The investigators speculated that this sermon might have triggered a confrontation between Jennifer and Michael. Did Jennifer discover the hidden files? Was the argument over this issue the catalyst for the tragic events that followed? When confronted about the explicit content, Michael claimed his intentions were innocent. He said he had sought the material to refresh his marriage and reignite intimacy with Jennifer. But investigators were skeptical. The explanation didn't align with the growing picture of a man harboring secrets. Despite their suspicions, the investigators faced a critical problem. They had no bodies, no direct evidence tying Michael to foul play, and no definitive proof of what had transpired on February 13. Michael remained under surveillance, but he could not yet be charged. 3 months after Jennifer and Abby's disappearance, Michael remained the primary suspect. Then, during routine surveillance, detectives witnessed him engaging in peculiar behavior. Michael was caught stealing office furniture from his workplace. The act, captured on camera, showed him loading boxed furniture into his car trunk and driving off. While this theft seemed minor compared to the gravity of the case, it offered a chilling glimpse into Michael's psyche. How could a man who publicly projected himself as an upstanding, grieving husband and father secretly engage in petty crime? If you found this story compelling and want to stay updated on more true crime cases, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful. To the outside world, Michael appeared to be a model citizen, active in his church, respected in his community, and devoted to his family. But investigators now saw him as a man of duality, calm and composed on the surface, yet hiding dark secrets and erratic behaviors beneath. The question loomed larger than ever. Was Michael Blagg a grieving husband desperately searching for answers, or was he the architect of a horrific crime? With no bodies, no murder weapon, and no clear motive, the case remained maddeningly elusive. Investigators needed one more piece of the puzzle to break the case wide open. They were about to discover that, sometimes, the smallest clue can unravel the largest mystery. As they doubled down on their efforts, pouring through surveillance footage, re-examining digital footprints, and digging into Michael's past, they knew one thing: they were running out of time to find Jennifer and Abby, or to prove what had truly happened to them. This seemingly insignificant detail about Michael taking out the trash on February 13 struck investigators as odd. Michael was not known for participating in such mundane tasks at his office, especially during work hours. The timing and deviation from his usual routine raised suspicions. Detectives immediately turned their attention to the office dumpster, hoping to recover some overlooked evidence. Unfortunately, months had passed, and any physical trace that might have connected Michael to the disappearance of Jennifer and Abby had long been lost. But this detail, coupled with other inconsistencies in Michael's behavior, encouraged investigators to re-examine surveillance footage from the office parking lot and surrounding areas. After meticulously reviewing hours of video footage, investigators found something peculiar. On the afternoon of February 13, Michael was seen loading 2 large, heavy-looking bags into the trunk of his car. His movements were deliberate but not rushed, almost as though he didn't want to draw attention to himself. When confronted with the footage, Michael claimed the bags contained old office supplies he was discarding as part of a cleanup effort. But co-workers refuted this, stating no such cleanup had been organized. The footage alone wasn't enough to implicate him, but it added to the growing mountain of circumstantial evidence. Armed with the new information, investigators re-examined Michael's known routines and frequent destinations. They theorized that if he had disposed of evidence, he might have done so along his typical commute or in an area he felt comfortable navigating. Search teams were dispatched to locations near Michael's workplace, his home, and other spots he frequented. This time, they included cadaver dogs trained to detect human remains. Days turned into weeks with no substantial findings until one dog alerted near a desolate wooded area about 12 miles from Michael's home. In late May, nearly 4 months after Jennifer and Abby's disappearance, search teams uncovered what appeared to be a shallow grave. Inside, they found partial skeletal remains, later identified as belonging to Jennifer through dental records. Abby's remains, however, were not discovered, deepening the mystery and heartbreak of the case. Forensic analysis revealed Jennifer had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with a violent assault. The shallow grave also contained fragments of duct tape and fibers matching those found in the Blagg household, further tying the crime scene to Michael. With Jennifer's remains discovered and new forensic evidence pointing to foul play, Michael was officially arrested in early June. During his arraignment, he maintained his innocence, stating, "I loved my wife and daughter. I would never hurt them." The prosecution, however, painted a damning picture of a man living a double life, one where marital strife, hidden secrets, and mounting pressures culminated in a desperate act of violence. As the trial began, prosecutors leaned heavily on the circumstantial evidence, from the blood found in the master bedroom to the inconsistencies in Michael's statements and actions. They argued that Michael's motive stemmed from a combination of personal shame over his hidden habits, escalating tensions with Jennifer, and an overwhelming desire to maintain his public image. The defense countered by emphasizing the lack of direct evidence tying Michael to Jennifer's death. They pointed out the absence of Abby's remains and suggested the possibility of another perpetrator. Michael's military background and his calm demeanor during interrogation became a focal point for both sides. Was he a man trained to suppress emotion, or was he a calculating killer? After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Michael Blagg was found guilty of second-degree murder in Jennifer's death. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Abby's fate, however, remained unresolved. The lack of her remains left a haunting void in the case, and Michael continued to deny any knowledge of what happened to his daughter. For Jennifer's family, the verdict brought a measure of closure but not peace. "We'll never stop looking for Abby," Jennifer's sister said during a press conference. "She deserves to come home, and we deserve to know the truth." As for Michael, his imprisonment was marked by occasional interviews in which he maintained his innocence, claiming he had been wrongfully convicted. "The real story hasn't been told," he once stated cryptically, leaving both investigators and the public to wonder if there were pieces of the puzzle still missing. The case of Jennifer and Abby Blagg remains one of the most chilling and enigmatic stories in recent memory, a sobering reminder of the secrets that can lie hidden behind even the most ordinary lives. The dental records confirmed what investigators had feared: the remains were those of Jennifer Blagg. The discovery, while tragic, was a crucial breakthrough in the case. However, the condition of the body presented challenges. Decomposition and exposure to toxic landfill chemicals made it difficult to extract certain types of forensic evidence. Nevertheless, forensic experts were able to gather some critical clues. Alongside Jennifer's remains, they found remnants of duct tape consistent with restraints. Additionally, fibers on the body matched the carpet from the trunk of Michael's car, suggesting that Jennifer's body had been transported in the vehicle. The cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head, as suspected. This finding corroborated the earlier blood evidence found in the couple's home. However, despite an exhaustive search of the landfill over the next 2 weeks, no trace of Abby was found. The discovery of Jennifer's body was a bittersweet moment for the team. On one hand, they had achieved a significant milestone in the investigation. On the other, They were haunted by the thought of 6-year-old Abby, whose fate remained unknown. "We were relieved but heartbroken," one investigator later recounted. "We had hoped to bring both Jennifer and Abby home. Knowing that only one of them was found left an ache in all of us." The discovery also placed immense pressure on the prosecution team. With Abby still missing, they needed to build a compelling case against Michael that could stand up in court despite the absence of her body. Armed with the new evidence, investigators brought Michael in for another round of questioning. This time, they presented him with photos of the landfill search and Jennifer's remains. Michael's reaction was one of cold detachment. He neither expressed shock nor sorrow, simply stating, "I don't know how that got there. I didn't do this." Despite hours of intense interrogation, Michael stuck to his story, claiming he had no knowledge of Jennifer's death or Abby's whereabouts. Investigators noted his lack of emotion and cooperation, interpreting it as a sign of guilt. By late June, the district attorney's office formally charged Michael Blagg with first-degree murder in the death of Jennifer Blagg and child endangerment in connection with Abby's disappearance. The prosecution team worked tirelessly to assemble their case. They focused on the following key points: the blood evidence found in the master bedroom and on the hallway floor, surveillance footage of Michael loading heavy bags into his car, the fibers from his car's trunk matching those on Jennifer's remains, testimonies from co-workers who observed Michael acting suspiciously on the day of the disappearance. Defense attorneys, meanwhile, prepared their counterarguments. They aimed to cast doubt on the forensic evidence, suggesting that it was circumstantial and did not definitively prove Michael's involvement. They also highlighted the absence of Abby's remains, arguing that it left too many unanswered questions to convict Michael of a premeditated crime. The trial, which began in late September, was a media spectacle. The courtroom was packed with reporters, true crime enthusiasts, and community members seeking justice for Jennifer and Abby. Prosecutors opened by painting Michael as a man living a facade, a seemingly devoted husband and father who, in reality, was deeply troubled. They suggested that financial stress, marital issues, and a fear of public humiliation led Michael to snap. The defense countered by portraying Michael as a grieving husband and father, victimized by an overzealous investigation. They questioned the reliability of landfill evidence, pointing out the contamination risks and gaps in the chain of custody. Key witness testimonies. The landfill manager testified about the precise record-keeping and the conditions of the garbage where Jennifer's body was found, reinforcing the prosecution's timeline. Michael's co-workers described his unusual behavior on the day of the disappearance, including taking out trash and leaving work unexpectedly. Forensic experts presented evidence of blunt force trauma and the duct tape fragments, as well as the fiber analysis linking the trunk of Michael's car to the crime. Michael himself took the stand in a bold move by the defense. He tearfully maintained his innocence, stating, "I lost my wife and daughter. I would never hurt them. I don't know how this happened, but I'm being blamed for something I didn't do." While his testimony evoked some sympathy, inconsistencies in his account under cross-examination raised doubts. After weeks of arguments and deliberations, the jury reached a decision in mid-November. Michael Blagg was found guilty of second-degree murder in Jennifer's death and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Abby's disappearance remained officially unsolved, though prosecutors and investigators privately believed Michael was responsible. Without concrete evidence, no additional charges could be filed. Jennifer's family established the Jennifer and Abby Foundation, dedicated to supporting victims of domestic violence and funding search efforts for missing children. Michael, meanwhile, filed multiple appeals, all of which were denied. From his prison cell, he continued to proclaim his innocence, fueling conspiracy theories and online debates about what really happened. To this day, Abby's whereabouts remain unknown. Her case is periodically revisited by cold case investigators, but no new leads have emerged. For those closest to the tragedy, the hope of finding her remains a flickering light in the darkness. The story of Jennifer and Abby Blagg serves as a chilling reminder of the hidden turmoil that can exist within a family, and the devastating consequences when it erupts into violence. The retrial in Jefferson County proved to be just as emotionally charged and painstaking as the original. Prosecutors faced the challenge of presenting evidence and testimony that had already been heard over a decade earlier, all while countering a defense emboldened by the overturned verdict. Michael Black's defense team used the jury mishap in the original trial as a springboard for claiming he had been wrongly convicted. They emphasized the lack of direct witnesses to the murder, the absence of Abby's body, and the circumstantial nature of much of the evidence. They also sought to portray Michael as a scapegoat for an investigation that they claimed had rushed to judgment. However, the prosecution was equally prepared. They meticulously rebuilt their case, starting with the forensic evidence that placed Jennifer's remains in Michael's orbit. Gunshot residue. Although the murder weapon was never recovered, traces of gunshot residue were found on a pair of gloves in Michael's garage. This, combined with the bullet trajectory analysis from Jennifer's body, was critical in establishing that she had been shot at close range while in bed. Workplace dumpster logs. The prosecution introduced records confirming that the dumpster where Jennifer's body had been disposed of was emptied during the exact timeframe investigators believed Michael transported her remains. Behavioral analysis. Testimony from co-workers described Michael as visibly agitated and secretive on the day after Jennifer's disappearance. Forensic psychology. Experts explained Michael's history of controlling behavior, detailing his potential motives, including fear of losing his family and financial instability. Family members from Jennifer's side delivered heart-wrenching accounts of their grief, painting a vivid picture of the loving mother and wife they had lost. Jennifer's sister, tearfully addressing the jury, said, "We may never find Abby, but we know in our hearts who is responsible. Please don't let him escape justice again." Meanwhile, Michael's mother and a few close friends testified on his behalf, describing him as a devoted father who could never commit such a heinous act. The defense tried to humanize Michael, presenting him as a victim of circumstance, but the jury appeared unmoved. On June 3, 2018, the jury delivered its verdict. Count 1, guilty of first-degree murder of Jennifer Blagg. Count 2, guilty of tampering with evidence. Count 3, guilty of abuse of a corpse. Michael Blagg was once again sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The retrial reignited public interest in the case, with debates swirling around the justice system, jury selection, and domestic violence awareness. Advocates used the case as a rallying cry to push for better protections for victims of abuse and improved procedures in high-profile trials. The Blagg family issued a statement after the verdict. "We are grateful for the justice finally served, but the pain of losing Jennifer and Abby will never fade. We hope Michael's conviction brings some closure, though we know the void in our hearts will remain forever." Even after the second conviction, efforts to locate Abby's remains continued sporadically. In 2019, an anonymous tip led to renewed searches in an area adjacent to the original landfill site, but no significant discoveries were made. Abby's absence became a symbol of the case's enduring mystery. Investigators who had worked on the case admitted it was one of their greatest regrets. One officer, nearing retirement, remarked, "Jennifer's killer is behind bars, but Abby deserved to be found. I carry that failure with me every day." If you found this story compelling and want to stay updated on more true crime cases, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful. From his cell, Michael Blagg maintained his innocence, even authoring letters to media outlets and legal organizations seeking to appeal his conviction. These letters, often rambling and filled with self-pity, did little to garner public sympathy. In one letter, Michael wrote, "The system failed me. I loved my wife and daughter. They've turned me into a monster I'm not." Critics dismissed these claims as manipulative, pointing to the overwhelming evidence of his guilt. The story of Jennifer and Abby Blagg became the subject of multiple documentaries, podcasts, and true crime specials. Titles such as The Landfill Mystery and A Father's Betrayal explored the chilling details of the case, keeping it in the public eye for years. Though justice was served for Jennifer, Abby's disappearance remains a haunting question mark. Her name is listed in national databases of missing children, and her case is periodically reviewed in the hopes that advancements in forensic technology or a breakthrough tip might finally provide answers. The case of Michael Blagg stands as a stark reminder of the devastation caused by domestic violence and the complex interplay of justice, evidence, and human fallibility in solving such tragedies. The judges highlighted that Michael Blagg had a clear motive, the means, and the opportunity to commit the crime. The panel's decision stated, while circumstantial, the evidence against Mr. Blagg, when taken as a whole, creates a compelling narrative that he is responsible for the death of Jennifer Blagg and likely the disappearance of Abby Blagg. Michael Blagg's legal team attempted to take the case to the Colorado Supreme Court. However, the state's highest court declined to review the case, effectively solidifying the verdict and ensuring that Michael would remain behind bars for the rest of his life. Despite the conviction, the case continues to haunt both the public and law enforcement. Abby Blagg's whereabouts remain a mystery, and the lack of closure has left a void in her extended family and the community. Jennifer's family has held annual vigils to keep Abby's memory alive, often using the events to raise awareness about missing children. A mural of Jennifer and Abby was painted in their hometown of Grand Junction, Colorado. The artwork depicts the pair smiling and holding hands, symbolizing hope and the unbreakable bond between mother and daughter. Though resources have dwindled over the years, Abby's case remains active. In 2021, the Mesa County Sheriff's Office announced that they were revisiting old tips using advanced forensic techniques, such as ground-penetrating radar and DNA testing on previously collected evidence. "There's always a chance we'll find her," said Detective Laura Sanders, who has worked on the case since the beginning. "Even if it's decades from now, we owe it to Abby and her family to keep searching." Inside the Colorado State Penitentiary, Michael Blagg has become somewhat of a pariah. Other inmates reportedly view him with disdain due to the nature of his crime. Prison officials have noted that Blagg spends most of his time in isolation, refusing to engage in rehabilitation programs or group activities. He has, however, maintained his innocence, writing frequent letters to advocacy groups and filing numerous frivolous motions in court. "They got it wrong," he wrote in a 2023 letter to a legal aid organization. "I didn't kill Jennifer, and I certainly didn't harm my daughter." These claims have fallen on deaf ears, with most viewing them as the ramblings of a man unwilling to accept responsibility for his actions. In 2022, a true crime documentary titled Shattered Bonds, the Jennifer and Abby Blagg story aired on a popular streaming platform. The film explored the case in depth, featuring interviews with Jennifer's family, law enforcement, and legal experts. The documentary highlighted the painstaking landfill search, the emotional toll on investigators, and the enduring mystery of Abby's disappearance. It also reignited calls for reforms in jury selection and domestic violence prevention programs. Jennifer's family has tried to move forward but acknowledges the pain that lingers. "There's not a day that goes by when we don't think of Jennifer and Abby," said her sister, Rachel. "But we've learned to channel our grief into advocacy. We speak out for victims of domestic violence and missing children because that's what Jennifer would have wanted." Rachel now works with a national organization that provides resources for families of missing persons. She's been instrumental in helping pass legislation in Colorado that improves coordination between local law enforcement and federal agencies during missing child investigations. The case of Jennifer and Abby Blagg is a sobering reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating impact of domestic violence. While justice was served for Jennifer, the unanswered questions about Abby leave a void that no conviction can fill. For investigators, the case serves as both a triumph and a cautionary tale. It highlights the importance of persistence in seeking justice but also underscores the challenges of finding closure when evidence remains elusive. For the public, it's a story that lingers in the collective memory, a tragic tale of love, betrayal, and the enduring hope that one day, Abby Blagg will be found. The conviction and subsequent life sentence of Michael Blagg seem to provide a sense of closure for many involved in the case, but for others, it merely marked the end of one chapter in a long, painful journey. Jennifer's family was able to grieve her death with the knowledge that her killer would never walk free, but they could never fully erase the trauma of losing both Jennifer and Abby. Rachel, Jennifer's sister, frequently spoke about how difficult it was to find peace despite the justice delivered in court. "It's like we're stuck in two different worlds," she said in an interview shortly after the second trial. "We have justice for Jennifer, but every day we wake up hoping for a miracle to bring Abby home. The pain of not knowing where she is, that's a kind of agony we have to live with every single day." The case was covered extensively in the media, attracting national attention not just for its horrific nature but also for the haunting mystery surrounding Abby's disappearance. Various true crime documentaries, podcasts, and news specials delved into the details of the crime and the questions that remained unanswered. A particularly notable feature aired in 2021 on a major streaming platform, bringing the Blagg family's story back into the public eye. The documentary, Behind Closed Doors: The Tragedy of Jennifer and Abby Blagg, included interviews with psychologists who discussed the signs of abusive relationships, the psychology of domestic violence perpetrators, and the impacts on children who witness or are subjected to abuse. The film became a catalyst for conversations on domestic violence awareness, and several nonprofit organizations raised funds through its release to support survivors of such violence. In spite of the widespread media attention, Abby's fate remains unresolved. For years, volunteers, local law enforcement, and even private investigators have scoured the area around the landfill where Jennifer's body was found, hoping to find any trace of the missing girl. Yet, as time goes on, the search has become more and more difficult. "The landfill is massive," said Detective Laura Sanders, who has been leading the efforts to find Abby. "We've searched in some of the most remote sections, but we just haven't been able to find anything." In 2022, a new method was introduced to attempt to locate Abby's remains. Drones equipped with thermal imaging were used to scan the landfill for any possible heat signatures, but even these innovative tools proved ineffective. Some skeptics questioned whether Abby's body had ever been in the landfill, speculating that Michael Blagg may have disposed of her remains in a different location entirely. Nonetheless, the search continues. Private donations have funded new attempts to track down the missing girl, and even some volunteers from outside Colorado have offered their time and skills to assist the investigation. There remains a glimmer of hope that one day, Abby's body will be found, and her family will finally be able to lay her to rest. The Blagg family's loss has inspired them to become outspoken advocates for missing children and domestic violence victims. Rachel, Jennifer's sister, has worked tirelessly to promote awareness through public speaking engagements and charity events. She founded the Abby's Light Foundation, named after her niece, which provides support for families of missing children and advocates for stronger laws surrounding domestic violence and child protection. "Abby deserves to be remembered," Rachel said during a 2023 press conference. "We may not know where she is, but we won't stop fighting until she's found." Her words struck a chord with many, inspiring others to take a stand and contribute to the ongoing battle against domestic violence. Abby's story has become a symbol of the need for more resources to prevent violence within families and to protect children from such traumatic experiences. Michael Blagg's life sentence has done little to ease the pain of his actions. While many view his conviction as a just punishment, others believe that the justice system may have failed in some ways. For instance, Blagg's legal team has consistently argued that he was a victim of an overly biased trial, and there are ongoing debates about whether he was convicted based solely on circumstantial evidence. In the years following his retrial, Blagg's case has been revisited by legal analysts and reform advocates who argue that the handling of his trial could potentially offer lessons on improving fairness in the judicial process. Despite these debates, the vast majority of the public still holds that justice has been served, though for many, that justice will never fully compensate for the lives lost and the pain caused by his actions. Law enforcement officers involved in the case have also suffered long-lasting psychological impacts. The search for Abby was grueling and relentless, and many of the detectives have spoken candidly about the toll it took on their mental health. Detective Sanders has shared how the case kept her awake at night, haunted by the thought of a child possibly still lying out there somewhere. "We just didn't know where to turn next," Sanders admitted. "As investigators, it was one of the hardest cases I've ever had to work on. Every clue we followed led to another dead end. It broke us down, bit by bit. While they remain committed to finding Abby, the emotional weight of the case is something they carry with them every day. In the years since Michael Black's conviction, there have been occasional reports of possible sightings of Abby, but none have been confirmed. In 2023, a family in a neighboring state thought they had recognized Abby from a missing person flyer, but the girl they had seen turned out to be another missing child from a completely different case. Though the sightings are often false leads, they serve as a reminder of the indomitable hope that Abby might still be out there somewhere. Despite the darkness of the case, Abby's story continues to inspire change, and her name is invoked in discussions about the prevention of domestic violence, child protection, and the importance of continuing the search for missing children. The Black family, while still grieving, holds on to a quiet hope that one day they will be reunited with Abby, or at the very least, that the mystery of her disappearance will finally be solved. As time passes, the story of Jennifer and Abby Black remains a chilling reminder of the fragility of family dynamics and the lengths to which some individuals will go to control and manipulate those they claim to love. Yet it is also a testament to the resilience of those who refuse to let the memory of their loved ones fade into the past. For now, the mystery of Abby's fate lingers, and those who were touched by the case continue to search for answers, driven by the hope that one day, the truth will finally be revealed. If you found this story compelling and want to stay updated on more true crime cases, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful, and comment below with your thoughts. Your support helps us bring more important stories to light. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.